Hello there, this video will cover scaling a Linux desktop on a Chromebook. This will include two examples, which will be Debian with the LXDE desktop and Kali with the XFCE desktop. The end result will give us the ability to scale the desktop by height, width, a percentage, or by a default preset. So for example, if we wanted to increase the size of the desktop by 70%, then with a goL script that includes scaling, we can do goL 170 to scale the desktop to be 170%. This may also help resolve app resolution issues. If you are interested in Linux on a Chromebook, then you may be interested in my playlist that will cover how to install and set up a Linux desktop on a Chromebook without rooting. The complete instructions, including the scripts used in this video, will be in the pinned comment. Also, if there are any updates, then I will make notes on anything that has changed at the top of the pinned comment. Due to flaws in Chrome OS while developing these scripts, as much as a space in the wrong spot was able to crash Linux and Chrome OS. This may have been resolved since then. Note that we can recover from a crash by holding the power button until the Chromebook is off, and then after a few moments we can power the Chromebook back on. With that being said, I recommend adjusting the display size from Chromebook settings and adjusting the font sizes in the Linux desktop first before trying out the scripts used in this video. The display size can be adjusted from Chromebook settings, and from the list on the left side we can click on Device, and then we can click on Display, where we can then adjust the display size. Note that adjusting the display size will scale everything on the Chromebook. After that, we can close out of Chromebook settings, and if Linux is not already shut down, then we can shut down Linux. And when Linux has shut down, we can start Linux back up like usual, and then execute the goL script to start up the desktop. When the desktop starts up, we should see that everything is larger than it was before. Note that if we go back to the terminal app, we can get the resolution used in Linux by executing xdpyinfo space pipe space grep space dimensions. This may differ from the resolution in Chromebook settings. Later on, we will be using the resolution that we get from this command for the scaling scripts. If everything is still too small or not quite where you want it, then we can use the scaling scripts. The purpose of the scaling scripts in this video are to provide an intuitive, user-friendly method for scaling the desktop using Simoleon. The goL scaling script is presented as a series of smaller scripts to allow reusability of the subscripts. Generally, this will scale the entire desktop. Note that the results may vary depending on the desktop distro and the apps being run. Remember that this will also be useful for apps that run better with different resolutions. Note that questions related to this video are always welcomed and encouraged. If you encounter an issue during this procedure, create a new comment. Please don't post questions under the pinned comment or under another user's comment because it makes it difficult for me to find and answer questions. Also, to help me help you, please include the last command you executed or a description of what you were doing along with any messages and errors that you see. For my example, I will be using the terminal app. Keep in mind that you can use whatever terminal you would like to create these scripts. Before we create these scripts, we are going to rename our original Go script that we used to start up the desktop. To do that, we will first execute ls /usr/bin/go**. This will list all of the files that start with go in the /usr/bin file path. After that, we will execute sudo mv /usr/bin/goL /usr/bin/goL.bak. This will rename the goL script to goL.bak. If you already have a file called goL.bak, then you can number them to be goL.bak1, goL.bak2, and so on. It is generally a good practice to keep a copy of a working script before editing or creating a new one to replace the old script. Keep in mind that we can still execute the original goL script. The only difference is we'd execute goL.bak instead of goL, and the desktop will start up like usual. Now, rather than typing out all these scripts, we can copy and paste the scripts, which will be available from the pinned comment in this video, as well as the pinned comment in the first video of my Linux on a Chromebook without rooting playlist. There will be 6 scripts that we will be copying over, which will be the main goel script, and then the go Zephyr no zoom, go Zephyr stop, go Zephyr by percent, go Zephyr by height, and go Zephyr by width scripts. So from whatever browser we prefer, we can go to youtube.com/@RuthAche. From my homepage, we can scroll down to the Linux on a Chromebook section, and then we can view the Linux on a Chromebook without rooting playlist. From the playlist, we can click on the first video, scroll down to the pinned comment and click on Read More, and finally scroll down to the on-the-fly desktop scaling section where we can see all 6 of the scripts that we are going to use for scaling. Above each script, I've included the file path and file name. From here, we can highlight the goel script that uses on-the-fly scaling, and then we can do Ctrl-C to copy it. After that, we can go back to the terminal and execute sudo space nano space /usr/bin/goel. This will create a file called goel in the /usr/bin file path. Once we've done that, we can do Ctrl-Shift-V to paste the script. From here, we can replace the user ID, including the angle brackets, with our actual user ID. The user ID is what comes before the @penguin in the terminal. This script will determine what to do for scaling based on given inputs, and then it will start up the desktop. So when we use the script, the first half will determine whether to scale the desktop by height, width, a percentage, or by a default percentage. It determines what to do based off of the first input that we give it, which is represented by $1. For example, if the first input is H, then the go Zephyr by height script for setting the resolution by height will be executed with the second input represented by $2 being used as the height. If the first input is W, then the go Zephyr by width script will be executed and it will scale the desktop by width based off of the second input. Next, if the first input is not equal to nothing, then we are assuming a percentage was typed in and the go Zephyr by percent script will be executed and it will scale the desktop based on the first input. Finally, if there is no other input when we execute the goel script, then the go Zephyr by percent script will be executed with a default percentage, which for this example is 120%. Keep in mind that you can change the default percentage at any time. If you want the default behavior to have no scaling, then you can comment out go Zephyr by percent with a £sign and uncomment the line with go Zephyr no zoom. The next few lines in the script set some environmental variables. Because we are using sudo, the variables will not already be set, which is why we are setting them here. Note that the backslashes are just a continuation of the sudo-u user ID env line. The xdg variable helps apps find and connect to services such as sound. The gdk variable helps run everything inside the desktop. Lastly, the path variable helps the desktop find where apps are located. In other words, it's the search path for executables. The final line starts up the desktop. The ampersand greater than /dev/null will get rid of both standard and error messages. If you would like to see those messages, then you can delete this. Lastly, the ampersand at the end of the line runs this line in the background. Now that we are done with the script, we can do Ctrl-O, Enter, and then Ctrl-X to save the file and exit nano. After that, we can execute sudo space chmod space +x space /usr/bin/goel. This will make the goel script executable. Next, we are going to go back to the browser and we are going to copy the next script, which is go Zephyr no zoom. Once we've copied the script, we can go back to the terminal and execute sudo space nano space /usr/bin/go Zephyr no zoom. This will create a file called go Zephyr no zoom in the /usr/bin file path. From here we can do Ctrl-Shift-V to paste the script. If we uncommented the go Zephyr no zoom line from the go-L script, then this script will be executed if we do not specify a scale, which means the desktop resolution will not be changed. The first line executes the go Zephyr stop script, which will ensure that Zephyr is not already running. The next line starts up the nested X server, which is what the desktop will run in. Lastly, sleep 3 gives time for the nested X server to start up. When we are done with the script, we can do Ctrl-O, Enter, and then Ctrl-X to save the file and exit nano. After we've done that, we can execute sudo space chmod space +x space /usr/bin/go Zephyr no zoom, which will make the go Zephyr no zoom script executable. Now we are going to go back to the browser again, and this time we are going to copy the go Zephyr stop script. When we have it copied, we can return to the terminal and do sudo space nano space /usr/bin/go Zephyr stop. This will create a file called go Zephyr stop in the /usr/bin file path. Once we have created the file, we can do Ctrl-Shift-V to paste the script. This script will make sure that Zephyr is not already running. The first line stops Zephyr if it is already running. The next line removes the .x20-lock file, which will ensure that Zephyr will start up. Finally, the sleep 3 gives some time for Zephyr to finish stopping. Now that we have created the script, we can do Ctrl-O, Enter, and then Ctrl-X to save the file and exit nano. Once we've done that, we can execute sudo space chmod space +x space /usr/bin/go Zephyr stop, which will make the go Zephyr stop script executable. Again, we are going to go back to the browser and copy the next script, which is go Zephyr by %. When we have copied the script, we can go back to the terminal and do sudo space nano space /usr/bin/go Zephyr by %. This will create a file called go Zephyr by %, and it will also be in the /usr/bin file path. From here we can paste the script by doing Ctrl-Shift-V. This script will set the resolution of the desktop based on a given percentage, which is represented by $1. The first line is just a comment that doesn't do anything. It's just a reminder that we need calc installed in order for this script to work. The second line executes the go Zephyr stop script to ensure Zephyr isn't already running. On the next line, calc will divide 100 by the given number, and the result of that is stored in a variable called res. After that, the res variable is modified so that any extra spaces are taken out, and it also limits the result to 5 characters. The next 3 lines create a variable called command, which includes Sommelier and Zephyr. Sommelier is what's going to scale the desktop, and Zephyr will be running a nested X server inside of Sommelier. Notice that the scale being used for Sommelier is the number stored in the res variable. The next line will print out what's in the command variable, so when we execute the script, we can see the command being used for scaling the desktop. After that, we execute the command stored in the command variable. From there, we wait a few seconds to give Sommelier and the nested X server a few moments to start up. Now that we are finished with the script and understand it, we can do Ctrl-O, Enter, and then Ctrl-X to save the file and exit nano. And then we can execute sudo space chmod space +x space /usr/bin/go Zephyr by %, which will make the go Zephyr by % script executable. After that, we are going to go back to the browser and copy the go Zephyr by height script. Then from the terminal, we can do sudo space nano space /usr/bin/go Zephyr by height. This will create a file named go Zephyr by height in the /user/bin file path. From here we can paste the script by doing Ctrl-Shift-V. The first 2 lines that have the height and width variables will store the actual height and width of the resolution used in Linux. You will likely need to change these numbers so that they are based on the resolution for your Chromebook. Remember, we can obtain the height and width used in Linux by executing xdpyinfo space pipe space grep space dimensions. Once we know the height and width of the resolution used in Linux, we can go back to editing our script and change the numbers for the height and width variables so that they match the height and width used in Linux for our Chromebook. The GoZephyr by height script will set the resolution based on a given height, which is represented by $1 in this example. As we already know, the width and height variables will store the actual width and height of the Chromebook display size. After that, we store the given height in a variable called new height. Then with the height and new height variables, we calculate the percent so that we can keep the same ratio. This result is stored in the variable named percent. Finally, we execute the GoZephyr by percent script and pass in the percent variable. This will start up Sommelier and the nested X server, which is what the desktop will run inside of. We are now done with this script, so we can do Ctrl-O, Enter, and Ctrl-X to save the file and exit nano. Then, like we've done with all the other scripts, we will do sudo space chmod space plus x space /usr/bin/GoZephyr by height to make the script executable so that we can use it. Now we just need to make one more script, so we are going to go back to the browser, copy the GoZephyr by width script, then go back to the terminal and execute sudo space nano space /usr/bin/GoZephyr by width, which will again make a file in the /usr/bin file path, and it will be named GoZephyr by width. And from here we can go ahead and do Ctrl-Shift-V to paste the script. Like we did with the GoZephyr by height script, we will need to set the height and width variables to be the actual height and width of the display size. This script will set the resolution based on the given width, which is represented by $1. This script is almost identical to the GoZephyr by height script, except the percent is calculated with the actual width of the display size rather than the height. Finally, we can once more do Ctrl-O, Enter, and Ctrl-X to save the file and exit nano. And then we can make the script executable by doing sudo space chmod space plus x space /usr/bin/GoZephyr by width. Now before we use these scripts, we first need to install calc. To do that, we will first execute sudo space apt space update space -y. This will update the software index list. When that's done, we can do sudo space apt space install space calc space -y. This will install calc, which is necessary for calculating the resolution. If we'd like, we can clear the terminal to make it easier to see what we are doing by doing Ctrl-L on our keyboard. Now that everything is ready to go, we can scale the desktop. Note that we need to execute the GoL script from the terminal app. So if we wanted to scale the desktop to be 70% larger, we can do GoL space 170. For my screen, this is very large, but we can clearly see that we can scale the desktop to be as big as we want. Note that the command being used for scaling the desktop will be printed out in the terminal app so we can see the scale being used for Sommelier. Now say we want to try a different scale. Without the need to shut down Linux, we can simply go back to the terminal app, and this time let's set the resolution by height. To do that, we can do GoL space H space whatever height you would like. For my example, I will be doing 1100, which is bigger than the height of my actual display size, so everything will be much smaller. To change the resolution by width, we can go back to the terminal app and enter in GoL space W space whatever width we would like. This time around, I'm going to do 1300. This will be a bit smaller than my actual display size, so my desktop will once again be bigger than normal. Finally, if we have a specific default resolution that we like, then we can edit the GoL script by doing sudo space nano space /usr/bin/goL. And then under the else statement, we can set a default resolution that will be used for when we don't specify a resolution. So I'm going to change the default from 120% to 130%. Once we are done with modifying the default resolution, we can do Ctrl-O, Enter, and Ctrl-X to save our changes and exit Nano. Now when we only execute goL, the desktop will start up with the default resolution that we set. Remember that we can also scale the desktop to improve the performance of a specific app. For example, the game Power Manga in Debian is unable to be full screen. But if I do goL W720, then the game will take up the majority of the screen and it's much more enjoyable to play. So for any program that has issues with being full screen, we can adjust the resolution to be smaller so that it takes up as much of the screen as possible. The same applies to the reverse. So if an app doesn't run well with a smaller resolution, such as Xshogi, where the symbols don't properly show up unless the resolution is big enough, then we can increase the size of the resolution. So for the Xshogi example, the larger resolution allows us to properly see the symbols on all the game pieces. If you encounter an issue with running a specific app, then you can try running the app without any prefixes in the launch command. For more information on Sommelier, we can do sommelier space -- help from a terminal. In addition to scaling, we can also adjust the font sizes and desktop icon sizes for some fine-tuning. To adjust the desktop font size, we can right-click anywhere inside the desktop, select Desktop Preferences, and from the Appearance tab under Text, we can click on the current font being used. From here, we can adjust the font size to our liking. When we are done adjusting the font, we can click on the OK button, and then click on the Close button. Next, we can adjust the desktop icon sizes. To do that, we can open up File Manager PCMan FM, and when we have that open, we can do Ctrl+ to increase the size of the desktop icons and Ctrl- to decrease the size of the icons. When we are finished with that, we can then close out of the File Manager. To adjust the overall fonts, we can go to the menu, and in the Preferences category, we can click on Customize Look and Feel. From the Widget tab, we can click on the current default font, and then we can change the size to whatever we would like. Once we are satisfied with the font size, we can click on the OK button, and then click on the Apply button to apply the change we made. We can also adjust the window title fonts by going to the Window Border tab, and then we can change the fonts from the title bar and miscellaneous subtabs. Remember that anytime we make a change in Customize Look and Feel, then we will need to click the Apply button so that the changes are saved. For further customization, we can look through the rest of Customize Look and Feel. When we are done with Customize Look and Feel, we can click on the Close button. Lastly, we can also adjust the taskbar font. To do that, we can right-click on the bottom taskbar, select Panel Settings, then go to the Appearance tab, and under Font, make sure that the size option is checked, and then we can change the font size. If you change the color of the taskbar font, then in order for the color to apply everywhere in the taskbar, we have to right-click on the taskbar, select Taskbar Window List Settings, and check the Flat Buttons option. Once we've done that, the new color should apply everywhere in the taskbar. Now if we are using Kali, then all we have to do differently is modify the main goL script. On the line before the second half of the script, we will add sudo space systemctl space restart space networking space ampersand greater than space /dev/null space ampersand. The sudo systemctl restart networking will restart the network in Linux. This helps to prevent network issues in Linux. After that, we will also add sleep space 3 so that the network has a few moments to restart. Finally, we just need to edit the last line by replacing start LXDE with start XFCE4. When we are done with those modifications, we can do Ctrl-O, Enter, and Ctrl-X to save the file and exit Nano. Now we can start up the main Go script with whatever resolution we would like, just like we did for Debian earlier. When the desktop has completely started up, we should notice our new resolution take effect. Before I cover adjusting the font sizes and desktop icon sizes for Kali, I'm first going to show how to fix Kali Undercover. If you experience an issue with launching Kali Undercover where it says Undercover mode only works on XFCE desktop, then we can easily fix this by opening a terminal. And from the terminal, we can first execute which space Kali-undercover. This will tell us where Kali-undercover is located. Now that we know where it is, we can edit the file by doing sudo space nano space /usr/bin/Kali-undercover. Now from the Kali-undercover file, we are going to use a pound sign to comment out lines 3 through 7, which is the whole if statement that checks to see if the desktop is an XFCE desktop. Note that this change will not affect Kali-undercover if we were to run the desktop without scaling. Once we've commented those lines out, we can do Ctrl-O, Enter, and Ctrl-X to save our changes and exit Nano, and then we can exit out of the terminal. Now when we search for Kali-undercover from the menu and then launch it, the desktop will undergo the usual transformation. Remember that we can get the desktop back by going to the menu from the bottom left corner, search for Kali-undercover, and then click on Kali-undercover again and wait a few moments for the Kali desktop to return to normal. Now for some fine-tuning, we can also adjust the font sizes and desktop icon sizes. To adjust the desktop icon size, we can right-click anywhere inside the desktop, select Desktop Settings, then go to the Icons tab, and from there we can adjust the desktop icon size. We can also adjust the desktop font size from here by checking the Use Custom Font Size option, and then we can change the desktop font size. When we are all good with how everything looks, we can click on the Close button. Next, we can adjust the overall fonts. We can do that by going to the menu, and then we can click on the Settings Manager button that is near the bottom right of the menu, and then from the Settings window, we can click on Appearance, go to the Fonts tab, and here we can click on the current default font where we can adjust the font size. Once we are finished adjusting the font, we can click on the Select button, and then we can click on the Close button. We can also adjust the window title font by going to the menu, click on the Settings Manager button, then click on Window Manager, and finally click on the current title font, which is where we can adjust the font size for the window title. When we are satisfied with the font, we can click on the Select button, and then we can click on the Close button. Last but not least, we can change the font size of the clock. We can do that by right-clicking on the clock in the top right, select Properties, and in the window that comes up under Time, we can click on the font and then we can change the font size. When we are finished, we can click on the Select button and then click the Close button. Additionally, there are 2 desktop tools that you may also find useful. First, we have Magnus, which is a desktop magnifying glass that we can use to zoom into wherever the mouse is up to 5 times. This can help to see smaller text and whatnot. All we have to do to have this is install Magnus, and it will be available from the menu in the Universal Access category. Also, to prevent Magnus from starting up every time we start up the desktop, we can execute sudo space rm space /etc/xdg/autostart/magnus *. Another fun tool we can use is KRuler, which is one of the rulers we can use on the desktop to measure pixels. To move it, we can simply hold a left click and drag it wherever we want it to be. To resize it, we can drag the sides of the ruler. We can even rotate it by pressing the R key. For more options, such as changing the color of the ruler, we can right-click on it. To close out of the ruler, we can right-click on the ruler and select Quit. To get KRuler, we can install KRuler, and it will be available from the menu in the graphics section. As a last note, if you'd like even more information on Sommelier, then I will have the Sommelier documentation linked in the pinned comment. If you enjoyed this video, then you may be interested in the companion book to this video, the Chromebook Guide to Google Linux. And other than that, see you soon!